Welcome everybody to this World Satsanga held on the 25th of April 2020 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and The Moore Show, and I'll thank Kevin for the work he's doing. Right now he's got a lot of work on, and so he's not able to broadcast the Satsangas on his YouTube channel. He's up to his ears in work with the documentary series called We Are the Channelers, and I believe he's on number 52 right now, so check that out on YouTube. Kevin Moore and The Moore Show and More Talk, and his series called They Call Us Channelers. Let's have a look at the agenda for today. We've got a lecture about what makes a great civilization. Then we have a lot of questions and answers, so I thank those people who sent the questions in, and there's a lot of work to do there. And then we've got a meditation on healing the earth, which is a different way of doing it that I've done previously, one that involves us funneling the energies in through us and us as a channel to help inject it into the earth. Okay, so let's have a look at what makes a great civilization. Well, great civilizations they don't pop into existence. They go through quite a difficult process of experimentation before they get there, and quite clearly the sort of way in which the civilizations on earth have approached things are not too dissimilar to the way that certain great civilizations will have gone through their own growth process to get there. But there's a number of main points that indicate what a great civilization is and how they operate. There's benevolence, inclusion, roles and responsibilities, cooperation, sharing, helping others. What that would mean, helping others in terms of the civilizations and helping other civilizations to progress, education and transparency. Well, I'll deal with each of these different headings separately and in summary to help us understand. But in all of these areas, they have to be inclusive together to make the civilization great, because any other areas missing they sort of end up creating a sort of chink in the armour, so to speak. So benevolence is really what it is. It's helping in a way without expecting reward in the background. So for instance, we have it to the people giving money on earth right now. We have people who are very, 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 very wealthy who donate lots of money to different charities or different causes, and that's one form of benevolence. It's sharing what you've got. If you go to some Greek islands, and one I know very well is Crete, they will share everything with you. Some of the poorer countries around the world, if they really are in tune with nature and themselves, they share everything with you. So benevolence is about sharing, it's about understanding, about giving what's happening. It's about logging into the individual, their circumstance, or the group of individuals and their circumstance, sort of empathizing with them, and then helping them move on so they can become self-sustaining. So benevolence is really quite a big part of this. Inclusion is another part as well. So rather than being exclusive, we're inclusive. And that means that everything is available to everybody all of the time. And what that means is, for instance, levels of education, levels of training, which is obviously another form of education, levels of the number of tools, for instance, that are available to people. Everything is available. For instance, within this COVID-19 problem we've got now, we haven't had the tools to be able to do it properly. And those tools were available around the world, but they weren't shared properly, or probably weren't even asked to be shared properly. So inclusion means that everybody's available to do everything. So that means that everybody can experience working on a ship, for instance. Everybody can experience being an engineer. Everybody can experience being a doctor or a lawyer, or a gardener, or a forest keeper, or a game reserve worker as well. Everybody has a chance of doing everything. Nobody's left behind. There's nobody that is not capable of doing something without the right level of tutelage. So it's really about including everybody. And if somebody wants to do something but they're not educated, then we help them become educated. We give them the opportunity to go through an education process that isn't, shall we say, a generalised process that we currently have in schools and universities, but it's more bespoke. So inclusion includes the ability to be educated in a bespoke way for those individuals to be taught in the way that they would like to be taught or could be taught. You know, people learn in different ways, so they should be taught in a way which is concurrent with their learning modality, for instance. So that includes them. That makes them feel wanted, and it gives them respect, and they feel the respect back as well. Roles and responsibilities is another one. Everybody should have roles and responsibilities. So when I'm talking about this, I'm seeing that, you know, from the person who lives in a remote part of Africa, to a remote part of India, to some remote part of South America, to even the north side of the globe, the Inuit, those sort of areas, everybody has a role and responsibility. And so nobody is in a position where they are not doing something that's of service. And if they're doing something which is of service, irrespective of what it is, then they're able to be compensated for in some way, shape or form. So that means that they have a role and a responsibility for doing something. That role and responsibility is respected and is desired, and it means that those individuals are treated in a benevolent way, and that they're also included in various different things. They're not just shuffled away in their little corner. Okay, we've given them a job; they can get on with it. It's about giving them the ability to move beyond where they are and become. Although they're in doing what they'll be doing, they'll be a very important member of society. They could become even more beneficial to society because they'll have their own ideas of how things could be improved, and they can be included together. Cooperation is a big thing. One of the biggest problems with the Earth right now is we don't cooperate properly. We don't communicate with each other properly. We don't share things properly, and so communication and cooperation is a real big thing that creates a great civilization. Everything is done in transparency. There's no hiding of certain things. There's no squirreling things away. Everything is shared, so that there's no need to duplicate work. We do what we need to do. We found something out and we share it, and we can share the route, the road that we've gone down within various different things. Let's take research for example, where we can show, well, we've done that. You don't need to do this, but if you wanted to carry on, you can start from this point, and then you can move on. So a civilization that's sharing shares everything. They share resources, they share individuals if necessary, so people will be sort of globally available, not just because you're living in one country, you stay in that country. If you've got an expertise that could be useful somewhere else, or you've experienced something that is useful, then you can share that knowledge with others as well. So cooperating and sharing is very important within a great civilization. There's no need to be, sort of exclusive in terms of, I can do this, you can't. Everybody is able to do things. So sharing the workload, sharing the education, sharing the ability to move forwards is also part of a great civilization. Helping others. Now, helping others is a big thing because it involves all of these other things of benevolence, inclusion, roles and responsibilities, cooperation, sharing and transparency. And of course education. It's all about helping other areas, other civilizations move up to the level that a higher level of civilization is. Now, what is a higher level of civilization? It's not just having technology or education, it's a way of using that technology and education in a way which is beneficial to those who use it. It increases the ability, the lifestyle, so to speak, not just the lifestyle, but the status of those individuals. But it also is used in a way which is cognizant with the way in which the environment can support it. So we got all of these things together, helping a group of individuals work with their environment. So if we are helping another civilization or a group of individuals in a barren area, such as a desert, for instance, we would be able to help them create a condition where they know the area, they understand the lie of the land, they understand how the winds work, they understand how the sands shift, And so together we could work a way out of irrigating the land, populating it with plants and trees and other things, making sure those plants and trees can survive, and so that the shifting sands start to slow down and stop, and we've turned an oasis out, out of the, we've created an oasis out of a desert, and that way that oasis can grow. Now the thing is that we don't just create the oasis and the people who've been there get left there; they get included in everything else. So we're trying to create a condition where the civilization, the greatness of the civilization, it isn't just in one part of the globe; it's all over the globe. So we don't get this disparity in terms of ability to exist. We don't get one set of people in abject poverty. We don't get another group of people who are in abject opulence. We have the sharing of it all. Now, those individuals who have got the ability to create businesses, for example, but let's not call them businesses, let's call them technological improvements that can benefit everybody, that would be created with the support of, shall we say, other governments, other individuals, to help create the technology that's going to help us and the earth as well. And that's passed around. So we wouldn't get the materialistic condition where one or two individuals create a product, sell a product, and over a period of years they end up being billionaires. And they've sold their product to a lot of people, but they have, for all intents and purposes, they've made the money and they've not helped anybody. They need to be more philanthropic. So that's those individuals in a great civilization wouldn't be working for the benefit of themselves and for money. They'd be creating something that's of the benefit of everybody and the earth. So a lot of calculations would be created there. There'll be an understanding of how it needs to be manufactured, how the manufacturing process affects the earth. Can it be cleaner? Can it be better? Who can it benefit? How will it benefit them? And if it doesn't benefit them, we don't do it. It's like having too many planes flying around the earth. If we have too many planes flying around the earth, then we have quite a lot of CO2 emissions and other things. But if we can work in a better way, where we create different transportation systems that are beneficial not to one or two people, but to everybody, then it makes a big difference. And that's the same with certain products. The objective is to make the products so that they are beneficial to everybody, and create the ability for everybody to benefit from them, and not in terms of everything, not just in terms of I've got the product and it's going to work, but in terms of this. The way it's been achieved is given people something to do, a role and responsibility, and it's allowed them to become educated and to give their own expertise back into that group that they're working with. And if we do have money with a great civilization or some form of remunerating or compensating for the work, then that which is gained in the exchange process is put back into the generation of environments and the generation of new ways of educating individuals. So we now go on to education, because helping other civilizations become is also a product of educating them. So education isn't just something which is, we always argue this, education is a right, not something which is available to the few. Everybody should be given exactly the same educational opportunities. And when we educate people, we start to see that certain people are good at certain things and not good at other things. So we should use, a great civilization uses the way in which people work and develop and blossom. And so we start to see the opportunity where we get round pegs in round holes and square pegs in square holes. And we put people who end up being expert in hydroponics, working in hydroponics, and the opportunity for crops to come out of that. I mean, there's lots of different ways of creating crops without damaging the earth, or using pesticides or other chemicals to stop diseases or infestation with insects. We could use nature, and so those individuals could be useful not only in the location that they're in when they get the education, but they can also okay, move around the planet if it needs to, or help other groups become educated in these things. So all this revolves around transparency. A great civilization looks after every component of the civilization, and a component is an individual. In our case, it's an individualized human being. So every human being is valued. Every human being has a role to play. There's no individuals who are, they're stuck in a corner, they've got nothing to do. Everybody has the ability to be a productive individual in terms of creating something, or being part of something, or maintaining something, or farming something that is helping the rest of the population become not just a more affluent in terms of, and I don't mean this monetarily, I mean affluent in terms of education, being of service to others, helping others, caring for those who are ill, for instance. Affluence is really about everything being available all of the time. So we have medical research happening, individuals being cared for happening, individuals who want to be in care can be helped, individuals who want to be the carers can be helped to be the carers, individuals who want to be the doctors can help to be the doctors, those who around the world who think that they can help in other areas can all be part of it. And so everything is created together. A great civilization is inclusive, full stop. Everything is included. There's no disparity, there's no highs and lows. It's all a level playing field. And we're all working in a collective way in a great civilization. It's not a case of we're doing it for me, we're doing it for us. And before we do it for us, we involve us, so to speak, to make sure that what we think is good for the collective is actually good for the collective, or whether it's going in a dead end way or a wrong direction. So there's lots of things that can happen, and it's all about understanding the needs of everybody as well, because right now where we are on the earth is a very rock bottom place, really. We've got affluence in certain parts of the world, like Dubai, for instance, and in America and the UK, and Western Europe, and then we've got other areas where there's very little going on, and people are in abject squalor with nowhere to live. They fight for their food and everything else, which is really sort of unacceptable, because these individuals have a role to play. They have a way that they'll be able to help others as well. So everybody should be given an equal opportunity, and this is another thing that gives civilization greatness, is that everyone has an equal opportunity to have a role and responsibility, cooperate with others, share with others, help others, be helped, show benevolence, show inclusion, receive benevolence, and receive inclusion. There's no differences because of location, because of body type, because of skin colour, because of ethnic education, or whatever you want to call it. There's no demarcation because of religion. There's no demarcation because one person's body was born in Africa, whereas another person's body was born in Russia, another person's body was born in Canada. There's no difference. They're all human beings, and so the understanding of everyone being a human being, and not one of these so-called pigeonholed levels of civilization that do or don't have levels of so-called technological civilization is eradicated. So and even down to understanding some of the traditional ways of doing things. Some of these things should be preserved for historical purposes, because it shows where we've come from and what we're doing. And the understanding of the historical side of things is what makes a civilization great. Working upon things, maybe making slight mistakes, but then moving forwards in a positive way, in an inclusive way, is what makes a civilization great. It's not about, we've done this and we're going to hide that we've done it wrong because we're fearful that we might get blamed for doing something wrong. It's about being transparent, inclusive, sharing, and everything being done together. So we're looking at a single world education process, a single world level of status, a single world level of sort of remuneration. There's no one person is richer than the other. Everybody got the same amount of sort of say compensation to be able to exist. Everybody gets the right amount of food because they're all part of the larger collective. There's one level of education across the world. There's one level. There's everything. There's one level of medical care across the world when it's required. There's one level of manufacturing processes that are worldwide owned, not just owned by one person or two people or one country or one government. And there's the transportation systems are worldwide and shared. So everything is created for the benefit of all. And when we get to this point where everything is done in a very high level way, where we're all working together, we're sharing together, we're caring for each other. You could argue we're loving each other as well, which is all part of it. Although human love is different to feeling the love of the source, for instance, or even your true energetic self. We start to become one rather than many. And so we become one big family around the world. And when we understand this and we recognise that what we do might affect somebody else, a couple of thousand kilometres away, then do we do it? And do we find out what should be done first? Then we start to think in a more collective, coherent manner. Individualised free will is an interesting experiment. But at the end of the day, individualised free will will come to the conclusion that working in a collective way, with individualised realisation that's the way to go forwards, is the time in which us as humanity will become a great civilization, because we'll realise that every individual that's incarnate on this earth has an important role to do. This is all materialistic. This is all physical. When we start to work in a collective way, we'll start to rise to the frequencies. We'll be looking after each other, we'll be of service to each other, we'll be sharing ideas, information, roles, we'll be helping others, they'll be helping us. We start to move up the frequencies. And then we start to understand who and what we are on a more fundamental basis. It won't be a case of, oh, I'm a human being. It'll be a case of I'm a soul. And everybody will realise this. I'm a soul in a body, or an aspect in a body, and I'm here to experience, learn and evolve on this planet. And that is the point which makes the difference. The point at which a civilization goes from just greatness to utopia, because then it becomes a point where the civilization makes the jump from working on a fundamentally physical level, where everybody's equal, everybody's got the same educational rights and levels of teaching, everybody is capable of experiencing anything, being included in everything, receiving service, giving service, caring for others, being cared for, being benevolent, being included, receiving benevolence, receiving inclusion, and then jumping up to all this happening anyway, because we ultimately know that we're here to experience, learn and evolve, and we start to understand that we're part of a much bigger and greater reality that's around us. And so we go from a great civilization to a utopian civilization, where we start to move into a different frequential level, because we've understood it. We've understood why we're here, why we're working together, and that the only way to evolve fast is to cooperate on every level possible. Share everything, help everybody, be of service to everybody, educate everybody, be transparent about everything, be everything, do everything together. Togetherness creates the jump upwards. It's the collective condition that goes from the great civilization to a utopian level of civilization. Utopia isn't a figment of somebody's imagination. It's a very possible place that we could get to. Once we start to work together collectively for the benefit of all, and I believe that this COVID-19 problem we've been having, apart from being a bit of an eye-opener, is starting to make us want to work together. And you can see around the world there's little pockets of cooperation, and then we're starting to get cooperation, deeper levels of cooperation between different governments in different countries. If we use this as a springboard and we move forwards collectively together, working together, and we maintain it, and we start to realise that actually let's start to create a level playing field for everything and everyone, and we give away our materialism to have a standard way of living and existence, allowing those who are having a substandard level of existence to come up to our level, so that everybody on the planet has got a place to exist, a comfortable place, which is all the same. We're not talking about putting toilets into a place where they don't have them. We're talking about everybody existing in a way which is considered to be acceptable in the Western world. So everybody has nice houses, everybody has nice infrastructure, electricity, flowing water. They're able to work in a good way. They're educated. Everybody's educated to a level which they can cope with, and beyond if they want to. And there's no reason why somebody can go from one level to another level. Everybody can be educated. Everybody can play a part. Everybody works together, and we start to move upwards. So the Earth is at a crucial point right now where we've gone through a downward turn, and everybody's been affected by the frequencies, myself included. And one of these days I'll tell a story. And it's all about seeing how we can work together and be together. Working together and being together in a communal sense is wonderful. If you've ever been in an ashram or a monastery where the monks are and the people in the ashram are chanting, and they're chanting Om, everything is one. And that's a wonderful place to be. We can get that as being heaven on earth, so to speak. Higher frequencies is heaven on earth whilst incarnate. That creates the great civilization. When we get to the point of higher frequency, so we move into another frequency, and we can help each. And although we ascend individually, we can go up there we can help others go up there as well. In fact, when we go up there, we realise that the most desirable thing is for everybody to be at that high level of frequency. We all become self-aware, and then we've got the understanding of who and what we are. As I said before, we just understand that we're a group of souls who are incarnating on Earth, 8 billion of us, to experience, learn, and evolve together. There's no race. And that's what creates the great to the utopian civilization. Okay, let's move on to the questions then. Okay, well, we've got a lot of questions here, and I think that some of them might have been answered in the lecture, but we'll go through what we can do. And I might actually put some of the questions into next month. Let's see how we go. Okay, right, first question's from US. A lot of spiritual people are giving much more positive slant on the pandemic, which will cause many people to awaken. Are they dreaming, or is it that we have pockets of locally high frequency groups that triangulate across the globe and thus cause many others to awaken? Or is it more like trying to wake up a hibernating bear? Please give us your take on this event. The wakening up is basically seeing how poorly those who are putting power are functioning and operating. And so we'll start to see around us those people who are operating responsibly versus those who are not. So really it's about showing us how good or bad we're all behaving, either from a governmental perspective or an individualised perspective. And it'll make us operate differently in a more collectively and individually responsible and mature way. So the next bit is, we would love it if you could give us higher guidance on how to mitigate these earth changes, at least in the dominant event spaces we're in and we're supposed to. Well, really, look around and see how it's been done, how countries who've been prepared and work with that which they're prepared in a correct and logical way have performed in this particular crisis. And you can see that by the number of individuals who've caught the virus and those individuals who died from the virus. You know, I mean, you've got Germany. I mean, in the UK we're complaining about perhaps, for instance, Wales, you know, is struggling to test 1,500 people, you know, a day or something. Whereas in Germany they've been doing 200,000, 300,000 a week, and they had a plan to do 500,000 a week, and they can do it. And so it's providing the right level of ability to create that which you say you can do, and doing it, not saying you can do it and not do it. So what you're starting to see, that we need to look at those who've been successful and put those who've been successful into leadership roles, not those who say that they can do what they're going to do and then not do it. Look at those who do things properly and repeat it. Everything we do, good process, is understood by example. If you tell somebody how to do it, they won't do it because they don't want to be told. If you lead by example, they'll look at it and take it on board and work with it that way. And that's the best way to do it, really. Is look around you, look who's been successful, and adopt their processes and procedures, thought processes, working with others and working with themselves. Next bit, we clearly don't have the leadership we need from the top, so are we supposed to start grassroots movements from the bottom, or local groups, or what? Is there something we can do now to mitigate any famine or such that, or other outcomes for humanity? The panic buying was a good example of how we could enter into famine really easily, because, you know, people were panic buying, stockpiling things, and then those things that they stockpiled were going rotten. So there was no point in stockpiling it, because they bought stuff that they didn't use because it was went rotten, then they threw it away. And that created a famine because then they would do more panic buying. So it's really a case of leading by example, broadcasting what you're doing as sensible, and hoping others around you would also follow that level of sensibility. And if you can do it in a way which isn't shallow, which is showing depth of maturity and understanding, then that's difficult. Yeah, then that makes that which is difficult easier. I mean, one of the things we're seeing a lot is broadcasting, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that on TV. It's easy news. People are showing, oh, we're working together, we're doing this, we're doing that. But will they continue to do it when the problem goes, the crisis goes? Probably not. They'll return back to their old ways. People who are doing things properly have always done things properly, and will continue to do things properly, not just do things properly because of a crisis. And so we should be looking at those individuals for guidance and direction, and for teaching, who've always done it right, who are continuing to do it right. And maybe they don't broadcast it, maybe they just do it right by example. That's the way to move forwards. Next question is, why haven't the curators, like the Waymakers, this is reference to the book The Curators, and those individuals who govern the evolutionary efficiency of the multiverse, and some of those who look after the Earth as well, done some intervention at some earlier points to change people's mindsets before things go from slightly wrong to much more worse, like from the changes we've had from 2016 to 2020. Do we really need to play out the Atlantis type scenarios all over again? They can see the potential for growth by letting us experience a situation that could potentially get out of control. And so they haven't intervened. Now, clearly there are other event spaces where we've responded properly, and this is the whole point of being in various different event spaces and having different realities, different parallel conditions, is that everything is being experienced concurrently. So this particular event space and reality is being experienced now by us, and another part of us is experiencing another one which has gone slightly even further wrong, or slightly better, or totally better, and where it never happened at all. So it's all part of the total gamut of experience. And so in this particular event space, it's considered that, you know, this is the way it needs to go for us to potentially understand a better way of working together. And that's why we do experience things. Next question is, why do some New Age spiritual types claim that we're already in the fourth frequency? Okay, that's the level above where we are right now. Okay, Are they talking about just a small number of people ascending, not the collective? Your impression of where the overall frequency is different to most other people's in spiritual circles. Delusion. Quite clearly, the mass population of the Earth is in, not in the fourth frequency. There are those who are going into the fourth frequency, and they tend to disappear. They tend to move out of our lives. We don't see them again because they've moved into a different environment, a different frequential level where they're not seen or experienced by our 5 very physical sensory functions of seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, or hearing, for example. So when you move out into the fourth frequency, you would move out of our ability to be detected, even with our technology. So as you can see from around us, there are quite a lot of people who are moving into the fourth frequency, hence the high number of backfill people, that other genre of sentience, sentient entities that are being allowed to incarnate on the Earth to backfill for those who've moved upwards in the frequencies, but still maintain the population. And you can see that the number of backfill people is increasing because the level of individuals who are incarnate who don't care about themselves or the environment has also increased. So the comment is both true and not true. So it's basically individualized, but there are a vast number of individuals who are moving on. And there's a lot of people, spiritual people, who are staying here to help others move on, to continue to provide the way forwards, to move onwards and upwards, whilst by being a good example. So those who are still here, who may feel a bit disappointed that they haven't moved up onto the fourth frequency level, for example, just think about it. Are you providing a service that you don't realise that is helping others to move upwards? That's the way to think about it. Good. Thank you, US, for those questions. And US is that lovely lady who's been helping me with a number of different things, one of them being the transcription of the Satsanga as well. So thank you very much for that. And that Satsanga, by the way, that work that you do, transcribing it into English, gets changed into Chinese. And I think there's also somebody looking to transfer them into different languages, other different languages like Spanish or even Japanese or those sorts of things. So it's initially it gets transcribed into English, but then it goes into other languages as well. So thank you for that. And there's starting to be a group that discuss this sort of stuff in China on a monthly basis as well. So the work you're doing is very important. We have a small role, but the implications can be much, much bigger. Think of it in those terms. And that means that everything you do, no matter how small it is, if it's of benefits to the collective of that which is on Earth, it's also going to benefit everybody else. Right. Next question is from FN. It appears that a few people predicted what is happening now, like Sylvia Brown in her book, including you, who saw this happening. At first I thought, was it if this was all predicted like a map set or setting stone, then our meditations and or our attempts to increase Earth frequency does not really matter? Then it occurred to me that Sylvia Brown and or you saw a possibility event space based upon probabilities or the probability of possibilities. Is that correct? We would have seen a possibility of going in this direction. And I've known about something like this all my life, basically. It hasn't got to where it could get to. Let's put it that way. Yes, and there's other scenarios where it could do as well. But basically, it's part of a way in which it's not planned as such. Because there's various different ways in which we interact with our environments, but in terms of the ability for it to be there, the possible possibility of the possible possibilities, it's one of those possibilities, and we've just gone down that particular route. Think of it in terms of the upside of the tree. We're moving down the trunk, and sometimes we move up on a branch, and that branch is a large branch with a lot of other branches coming off it, and one of those branches can be quite a long branch. And we're on one of these long branches that's come off another long branch, and that basically gives us the possibility of moving forwards in a particular way we didn't experience or didn't expect to experience. Next part of this is, if that is correct, then you said our frequencies went down as of 2016, and reflected that many of us became aware during the year 2000. So I assume that our frequency will not go up. sorry, I'll start again. So I assume our frequency will go up and not down. I think you wrote in your first book in 2010. So our frequency went down. So why our frequency went down as of 2016, when most of us who are listening to your Satsanga have become more aware from the year 2000 forwards? Is it because the number of backfield was increased as of the year 2000? Well, the year 2000 is not significant. It's simply a metric that we've used, the Gregorian calendar. It doesn't actually mean anything as such, although a lot of people put a lot of, and 2012, put a lot of emphasis on these dates. They don't actually mean anything because time doesn't exist, of course. But there are times when certain levels of understanding and knowledge has to come out, and there are times when we've got this knowledge and we move forwards in a way and we relax. Basically, from 2016 onwards, we relaxed and we fell asleep. We started to fall asleep again. And I was just having an interesting, very very short conversation with somebody else I know in the world, who says that I'm losing it. Why am I losing it? Because we've all relaxed and we've allowed ourselves to be attracted to low frequency thoughts, behaviours and actions, and because of that we drop down the frequencies, and because of that we start to forget what we were doing, and everything this low frequency starts to become acceptable. So really, round about 2016, we thought we'd all made it. And we had a rest. And that rest was frequentially not a good thing to do. So that's why we started to move down the frequencies. We can, and may well be, that this particular crisis is going to help us move onwards and upwards. We'll see. We will see. It appears, next question, it appears that this Earth, in the third frequency, will not fare well due to the lack of care by humanity. Humanity will suffer in this frequency within the next 100 years, and our resources will be depleted as well. As I understand it, based upon event spaces, we will be in survival mode over the next 100 years. As such, is it correct to say that while our group meditation cannot change what is going to happen on this Earth, it could slow down the process? It's important not to give up. It's important to keep going and keep providing a higher frequency. If you have a saucepan full of water that was boiling and you turn the flame off, then that boiling water will eventually come down to room temperature. But if you have just a small flame out of the burner, it helps to keep the temperature of the water slightly above room temperature. And the thing is that when you keep it slightly above room temperature, it still evaporates. It evaporates faster than it would do if it was at room temperature. So the thing is even though you might be one flame, whereas there was previously a whole group of flames, it's still important to stay alight, because you're still providing assistance in terms of helping the local environment that you're in maintain a higher than average level of frequency to that which is around the rest of you. So that's very important. Maintain your local temperature, maintain your local frequency, because it keeps you slightly higher, keeps those around you slightly higher, and if they're slightly higher, they'll help others become slightly higher, and we start to gradually move back up the frequencies again. So it's very important. Next question: how could we, in brackets our community who listen to your Satsanga, make better efforts? How does our efforts translate into changes in this frequency? How significant or mildly significant could our efforts be? It doesn't matter about what you do, it's keeping doing it. Doing the meditations, getting the groups together, listening to the various different ways of avoiding karma, understanding the greater reality, and passing the information on to those who are able to digest it is always important. Don't worry about how big a role you're playing, but worry about the fact you are playing a role is a good thing to know. So the thing is that don't be concerned about, am I playing a big enough role? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? Just keep doing what you're doing. That's the most important thing, because there's lots of other people doing what you're doing, and collectively you make a big difference. Individually it may seem like not much, but collectively it will be a big thing to do. So keep going. Last question from FN is, you said that we cannot be affected by coronavirus and other disasters if we keep our frequency high. Is that because we could have a completely different experience from others by staying in their own bubble of high frequency. So by not getting involved in dramas and not by getting involved in collective focus or lacks or fears, we remain in our own event space. This event space, or our individualised local event space, can sustain us in higher frequencies where people surrounding us are dealing with dramas and or possible disasters. Is that an accurate statement? Yeah, I mean, basically, the higher frequency you are, the less chance of getting ill you are. Fear is another way of being, succumbing to low frequency thoughts, behaviours, and actions, and becoming low frequency as a result of it. So if you're fearless of what's happening around you, you move yourself out of that level of concern, and therefore things that would be attached to you because you're low frequency, because you're denser, won't attach to you because you're not so dense. So think of it in terms of, a filter. If you have a filter, and the weave in the filter is small, then dust particles can't go through the filter, can they? That's what filters do. But if the weave in between the filter is big, then dust particles can go past it. So if you're a filter with a small weave or a small denier, then you attract things. You're lower frequency, you attract things. Dust gets stuck to you. But if you're a filter where you've got a big gap in between the structure, then things go through it. So the dust doesn't get attached to you. And that's the way the human form works in terms of being higher frequency. That which would attach to you if it was a virus doesn't attach to you. You don't give it the chance to attach to you. You're too high a frequency. That doesn't mean you have to stop. You can walk around with your head in the air thinking I'm beyond all this, because you're going to frighten other people. So you have to think of it in terms of, I still have a service to do to others, and that service is following the rules and regulations of social distancing and wearing masks where required, and washing the hands. You have to show others that you're doing the right thing so they feel happy. So they're not living in fear. And if they're not living in fear, they are higher frequency. So doing the physical things also helps others who are prone to fear by making them feel happier, that they're in an environment where people are looking after them by doing the things they're supposed to be doing from a physical perspective, even though you're doing things in a spiritual perspective as well. And in doing so, they become more happier and less fearful, and are less prone to their frequencies being low enough, and so their frequencies become high enough so that the virus will miss them. So it's all to do with working with both the physical and the energetic in this instance. Okay, so think of it that way. Okay, we've got another few questions. I'm trying to look at the time. We're cracking on. Okay. Next questions are the questions are quite big, so we should be moving through quite fast, I think. So there are lots of words, and hopefully we can answer them in a very clear and concise way. Next two questions from AB. And it says that Jesus is quoted as saying several times that I am the way. Wouldn't it have been better suited to his message if he emphasised pointing the way instead, choosing the former of this small discrepancy as a monumental ramifications? It lays down grounds for Jesus' deification as literally being God, rather than an advanced soul after whom we should model our actions and eventually become. Christianity has been reduced to emphasising faith in Jesus alone, so that many Christians will disregard, even disdain notions urging the necessity for self-improvement. Thus, the religion has become dangerous. It excuses people's responsibility to improve themselves and cripples their willpower to evolve beyond their current physical state. In light of this possibility, why didn't Jesus make it implicitly clear that he wasn't God, but an advanced soul showing us the way to reach his own unified state of Christ consciousness? Wouldn't have doing so radically changed Christian perspective for the better? I don't feel like this is a matter of scribes continuously distorting the message either, for this notion seems to deeply embed with the New Testament, or seems to be deeply embedded in the New Testament. Thanks for anything you might offer on this. Basically, there has been a level of transcription problem, definitely, and personalisation thrown into it over the years. But more importantly, you have to think of it in terms of 2,000 years ago, or whenever it was, we were in a completely different level of educational understanding. And individuals wouldn't have understood the technicalities, the science behind the greater reality, or even how to experience the greater reality through personal progression and self-analysis and meditation and stuff. So to say I am the way is basically saying, look, follow me, copy what I'm doing, and if you copy what I'm doing, you'll be able to experience what I experience. So and also the language changes, doesn't it? I mean, we see how massively the English language has changed since Shakespearean times compared to now. We have a lot more words to describe what we're experiencing than what we had then. And so again, the language being used would have had to have been appropriate to the level of time, the complexity of the language, and the individual's understanding of the language as well. So again, I see it as being, it's a complete misinterpretation of somebody who said, follow, I am the way. Yes, of course, the way is, just copy what I'm doing and you'll get there. And that's what I see Jesus was doing. He didn't need to explain that he was an enlightened being. He was just trying to show somebody, some peoples, his followers and those around him, how to think, behave and act. And as a result of that, gain enlightenment or self-awareness through self-control. So it's a matter of total misunderstanding, really, on the part of the individuals who broadcast it later. Next question is, the process of ascension draws some parallels to stories of the rapture. However, the rapture is described as an event happening all at once, violently and spontaneously, and being obvious to everyone in its midst. Is the rapture a dramatic and distorted foretelling of how humanity would ascend? In any case, my main questions involve the process of ascension, and are as follows. Ascension does not seem to be happening all at once, and to my main point, it doesn't seem to be happening at all. Wouldn't we have noticed people ascending from a society spontaneously or disappearing from sight? Granted, there are cases, albeit a few and far between, of missing adults, but these are unfortunately tied into criminal activity. Thus, and moreover, we need such large numbers of backfield people to balance out those people who have ascended. How come we haven't noticed an equally large number of righteous people vanishing from sight and society? This seems like a logical one-to-one give and take, a typical balancing of the scales, but everybody's still here, including the backfield people, whose prevalence therefore seems unnecessary. Could you explain the ascension process in depth and address these points if possible, where I'm off, as well as its relevance to rapture? We're ascending individually, definitely. And if you go onto the website and look at the www.beyondthesource.org and look for the events tab, and then look down at the lectures, you'll see the PDF files there. And sometimes there's videos of some of the lectures I've done over the years. And the ascension process is one of those, and it's worthwhile looking at that, because you'll understand that it is basically an individualized function that does happen sometimes collectively. The rapture is a way of describing how we feel when we are in communion with our higher self, our true energetic self, our Godhead or Oversoul. You can use those words to describe the same thing. It's that much bigger part of us which remains disincarnate, and or connectivity or communion with the function of God, or part of God as well. So it's about the expansion process, the rapture being the expansion into who we truly are. And the difference and the comparison between what we are here, which is basically cut off with about 5 senses, to having thousands of senses to our command, and total understanding and omnipresence and omniscience as well, in comparison to what we are now. So that's the rapture. It's like complete an understanding that we're all connected through everything. Everything is connected. Everything is entangled, so to speak. Everything is. So really, it's really is a case of understanding that everything is together and connected together. So we're all inextricably connected, and this rapture is part of that. So it's almost like vast understanding on a really deep level all at once. And so that's what's happening with individuals at times, and they are disappearing out of view. Some people disappear, and they're backfilled. And I've noticed a lot more backfill people around the world than there was previously. And some of them some of them backfill people. Basically, individuals who've moved on and who've had a walk-in. So not everybody's body is disappearing. It's the souls that are moving out as well. So you start to see people who've changed. One soul who's moved the other way around is Greta Thunberg. That particular individual, that body, was home to a different soul. And then all of a sudden that soul had done the job. It had allowed the body to grow to a certain level of maturity, and a different soul came in that was supposed to help us. And I'm starting to feel that actually this new soul that came into the body that we call Greta Thunberg is actually one of the white children's souls. So that's something else I needed to portray to you all. But in real terms, ascension happens individually and can happen collectively by those around us who are part of us, who are attracted to us, and we're attracted to them, and so we all collectively move up together as a result of that. And ascension can still be physical as well. It can be an understanding of how to think, behave, and act in a proper way whilst incarnate as well. So that as a level of realization as well makes a big difference. And that can be also classified as a minor rapture, if you want to understand it. It's like recognizing what we're here for and how to navigate being here, and what service we can be to others around us as well. So it's very important to understand this as well. So I've no doubt I haven't answered that question exactly as you wanted it answered, but ascension is typically individualized, but the number of individuals who we affect or who affect us can create a level of group ascension as well through group triangulation, which is sparked off through direct line triangulation as well. Okay, so thank you for that. Next question from OM is asked some questions relevant to some of the chakra opening exercises as well, and other bits and pieces. So what are the reasons for feeling pain during the chakra exercise? Well, basically, if our chakras are, shall we say, not functioning totally correctly, or they're a bit closed down, and we start to use the chakra opening exercises, we're pulling energy in. It's like stretching, isn't it? It's like stretching a muscle which hasn't been used in a long time. So we'll feel a little bit of discomfort until the chakra starts to function in a way consistent with pulling in more energy. So if a chakra is lazy or we've not been using our chakras properly because we've been not been sort of spiritually or energetically exercising ourselves, then we start to open it up to pull in more energy. It will feel a bit strained. So some people do feel a little bit of pain as a function of opening the chakras up because their chakras are not used to operating in that way. And eventually it goes away because the chakra gets used to it. Simple as that. Next question. If we practice chakra stroke repair energetic body, I'll start again. If we practice chakra or repair the energetic body at all levels, exercise every day, can we cure and prevent diseases and illnesses in ourselves? Or is there things that we can't heal even with our intentions and to recover from them? If so, does this still help us cope with pains and symptoms of our diseases and illnesses? The only limitation is ourselves, our thought processes, our doubts and fears. If we are able to forget about illnesses or pains, then they go away. They no longer affect us because we are a higher frequency. So I tend to ignore things. If I hurt myself, I ignore it almost straight away, and I'll get a small spike of pain, and then it goes, gone. Because I ignore it. I think, well, this doesn't. I don't need to experience this, so it goes. I forget about it. That's the same thing with illnesses. I forget about it. I keep going. And if you forget about it, you no longer live in fear of it. If you don't live in fear of it or experiencing it, that you'll maintain your higher frequency, and the illness disappears because it no longer has a function in your existence. And this is the thing that yogis do. They don't succumb to the low frequency thoughts, behaviours and actions of being incarnate. They operate on a different level. They know that this is a temporary condition, and that what they are isn't really the physical body. And if they're not the physical body, they can control the physical body and refuse to accept that which is physicality whilst still being physical. So keep going, ignore it, and you'll find it will go away. Just keep thinking of yourself as being a higher frequency spiritual entity, and you'll continue to move up the frequency as well. Keep meditating and keep thinking that you're a fit and healthy person, and you will be. Next question, what would the best way to inject energies to the earth? Is it more efficient if we imagine the complete picture of the use of energies when we are injecting? For example, imagine the complete picture of recovered environments, or is it better to allow the earth to decide? Also, I've noticed that there might be some energies that the earth has difficulty absorbing. When I put intention to converting energies to that which is already easily absorbed by the earth, then it starts to absorbing them. But I never understood why it is difficult for the earth to absorb certain frequencies. Would I elaborate? Sometimes we need to let the earth absorb energies in the way it can absorb them. Yeah? A stone won't absorb water like a rock will, like a sponge will. I'll get that right. A stone won't absorb water like a sponge will. So we have to think of it in terms of, a stone will eventually absorb the water, but not at the same speed as a sponge. So we have to let things happen in the way it's supposed to happen. So ask the earth what it wants to have, and then provide yourself as a portal for that work to happen. So ask the earth what energies it needs or wants to have, and then say, okay, work through me, earth, and the energies will come your way. So rather than trying to push it into the earth or inject it into the earth, allow the earth to suck the energies through you being an interface, not the provider of the energies. Okay, I hope that helps. Next question. What is the best thing we can do for the earth from the earth's perspective? I'd really like to know this. Think of it as being yourself, and look after it as you would look after yourself. That's the best way to think of it. So everything you do for yourself, you do for the earth. Everything you do for the earth, you do for yourself. Look after yourself, you look after the earth. Do things in an ecological way, then you're looking after yourself and you're looking after the earth. Don't do anything to the earth you wouldn't do to yourself. Simple as that. That's the only way to think of it, is be a good citizen. Be an ecologically wonderful individual, and you look after yourself and you look after your planet and your environment. And you enjoy doing it. Next question. I sometimes wonder if you ever feel afraid or hesitate to teach certain things because things can be a two-edged blade. If a student is not pure of heart and is used to that knowledge, it can be detrimental not only to the person but the collective as well. Does it ever cross your mind that when you writing books, or do you get certain instructions of what to put out and what not to put out, including your books? Yes. There are certain things that could be classified as being completely controversial, and the expression of would, at the wrong time doesn't exist, at the wrong point in existence, where there aren't enough individuals who would be able to understand it, would make it detrimental. So there are things that I don't teach or don't convey to individuals. Certainly now I've learnt that lesson. Things have to be fed properly. The wonderful soul Dolores Cannon used to say that we are fed things in like baby food. If we're spoon-fed things, and we're spoon-fed things when we're capable of eating them. So there's no point in giving a baby steak if he hasn't got teeth. So that's the same thing spiritually. We need to be able to work with things when we can understand them. People can't understand that an individual who's an antichrist has a same and a known role as somebody who's a Christ. There's going to be some books on this, by the way. Well, certainly one book. So everybody has a role to play. Everybody on the planet is important, irrespective of what they do. But sometimes people can't understand that the killer is just as important as the individual who's killed from the bigger perspective. And sometimes that knowledge is the double-edged sword that people can't understand because they're thinking in human terms. When people start to move out of thinking in human terms, they can be exposed to higher knowledge. And that higher knowledge needs detachment from human terms and start to think in terms of the greater reality. So, yeah, I do sometimes withhold information because it's not the right time. No, not the right event space. Thank you. Final. Would you do the unconditional forgiveness meditation sometime in the future? Most of us never experience unconditional love or know what unconditional forgiveness is in our lives. I think this might lift some of the weight we carry around and able to lift in the future, able to lift the frequency of the earth and the universe. Yes, we'll do it in May. Okay, we'll do this particular meditation in May for you. We'll do it for everybody, because I think everybody will need it in May, actually, because there's going to be a few things flying around as a result of this virus that's going to make people think in different ways. So we'll do the unconditional forgiveness meditation in May. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Final bunch of questions here from WP. And we're looking good. We're looking good. It's going to be slightly longer than usual, Satsanga, but we're looking good. So WP says, if our mission here on Earth is to experience, learn and evolve, why would most of us aspects only possess 2.5% sentience, when Jesus had more, say 3.5%, as I believe you said? At 2.5%, to what degree can we evolve? Not to the degree that a 3.5% could evolve. What are the metrics that indicate evolving is taking place? What is the end game? Why only 2.5%? It seems terribly inefficient. Why doesn't the test routinely create 5%ers or 10%ers? I suppose some tests are highly evolved and others are not at all, and all the different shades in between. The 2.5% is a is a function of the maximum number of aspects that can be projected from a particular test, whilst maintaining its own 70% of its sentience and energies. So it seems to be a bit of a constant, based upon the ability to project the maximum number of aspects from it. Also, 2.5% of the sentience of the TS is actually quite a lot. And then if you have individuals who are slightly above that, you can see the difference. 2.5% versus 2.55%, a big jump in sentience. And those who've got 3.5%, they are totally connected. They can navigate through their incarnation and be in a totally state of divorcement, or distancing. God, my English is getting rubbish. So they're able to sort of completely distance themselves from everything around them, whilst also navigating through it, and also manipulate the environment. Hence, yogis being able to dissolve their bodies and reconstruct their bodies in different parts of the world or different parts of the universe. So, and also having 3.5% is a good challenge for the tests, because if every aspect incarnated at 5% or 10%, then they'll remain connected to their tests and to the environments that the tests exist within the multiverse, and they wouldn't experience lack of functionality or lack of connectivity. So it wouldn't be of evolutionary benefit, basically, to evolve with a higher level of sentience. Some do because they've got a role to play, and that's appropriate. But most of the time, it's not a role to play on the world scale, by the way, the global scale, or beyond it. But those who are just doing the average life don't need it. Those who are playing another part may have a bit more sentience, but not much. Like 0.05, for instance, or 0.1 of percent. So we have enough sentience to be able to do what we're doing and evolve appropriately with the incarnation and the life plan we've designed and developed with our tests. So the levels they do move around a bit. Not everybody gets 2.5. They get a bit more, for instance, but the 2.5 is usually the lowest, unless you're a shard, in which case you get 2.5% to 2.5%. So it's all about placing the aspect in a position where it maximises its experiential opportunity, and within that experiential opportunity, which is usually hard work, it maximises the evolution progression, and that's why it's that low. Next one is the 2.5%er that has previously evolved prior to incarnation to a certain level more loving, less judgmental, kinder, compassionate, etc., than a 2.5% who is full of hate towards politicians and others who do not hold their views themselves. So some naturally take responsibility for themselves, do not have a victim mentality, persevere, overcome challenges, help other people, etc., whilst others have a victim mentality, blame others, and expect others to overcome their challenges, and end up helping no one, including themselves. What is behind these extremes? it's usually a case of evolution, and as those who are evolving and are of a lower level of evolution and are still in the blame culture, still won't take responsibility for themselves and their actions, will eventually get to that point where they do take responsibility for themselves and their actions. So the difference is that maybe it's not just 2.5%, it's 2.51% or 2.52% of the is relatively speaking is the individual who's moving upwards and becoming more compassionate and less judgmental and kinder. But also it might be that they have a role to play where they want to experience negativity rather than positivity. Not everybody who's an advanced being displays that which would, or it's an advanced entity by the way, would demonstrate that which is consistent with an advanced entity, because they may be taking a lot of negativity from others because of their thoughts, behaviours and actions, because that's providing a focus for them to operate in a more advanced way. So sometimes people or individuals who are working in a way which is low frequency are working in a way which is low frequency so that others can focus on it and collectively find a better way of thinking. For example, certain world leaders who have been particularly bad world leaders are providing a focus for us to know how we should be working, because it wakes us up, makes us realise we should be operating in a different way than what they are. I mean, Hitler was one, for instance. He operated in a way which was, and some of those around him, he operated in even worse ways under the auspices of doing the right thing for their leader, provided a focus for others to do things better, in a better way. So to be less medieval and more civilised, so to speak. So it's all about understanding that sometimes individuals who are performing in a low frequency way might be doing it to help others understand how not to perform. And sometimes they're experiencing it themselves as a balanced way of understanding how to exist in this low frequency way. Okay, next part of this question is, I understand that here on Earth about 55 million people die and about 150 million babies are born each year. It seems like a lot of souls or aspects to be assisting in the process of moving out of and into the earth plane. Seems like a full-time job for the countless helpers on the other side, so to speak. Or are these transitions no more needful of assistance than falling asleep at night and waking in the morning? Yeah, don't forget that our guide and helpers also operate with the parallel versions of ourselves as well in different event spaces. So they have there's a lot of entities working in support of us who incarnate. So of the 8 billion human vehicles on this planet, this is just one planet, there are countless numbers above that billion of guide and helpers to help assist those who have incarnated. So if you've got 8 billion, then if you use the average of 25 helpers and one guide per person, then you're talking 26 times 8. What's that? 26 times 8 is 52, is 104, so it's 208 billion guide and helpers in one event space. And if you have the parallel versions of that, it becomes much bigger than that, isn't it? So, yeah, there's a much bigger cohort of entities helping that remain in the energetic, who are helping those who are in the evolutionary cycle and who are evolving and moving forwards and helping all the other entities that aren't in the evolutionary cycle to experience and evolve as well. So basically, there are many more individuals helping those or supporting those that are incarnate than those that are incarnate. Many more. And that's because of the amount of work that's required to make sure that those individuals who incarnate experience the right experiences according to their life plan. They interact with those that are supposed to at the right point in their life plans, and that they gain the knowledge they're supposed to gain. And sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do their best to do what they can do. So the guides and helpers and their parallelized versions, as well as our parallelized versions, work in a massive amount of work which we can't see or even understand from our perspective here, but they are definitely capable of doing in the higher frequencies of the multiverse. Okay, so it's more than a full-time job from our perspective. It's a massive job. Last question from WP, and last question from this Satsanga. How should we think of our loved ones who have passed? They may have moved on to a new incarnation, reabsorbed into their test, still individual, disincarnates, etc. For example, my parents both died in the 1980s, and by now who knows where or what they are. Is it appropriate to send them love or to communicate with them, or is it just the memory of them that is real and that they are off on the next adventure? May they have already incarnated as my youngest son, or one of my grandkids, or into another realm, etc. Or is it both, or and? Their individualised energy remains as I knew them, and they are also off on the next adventure. So, how to think about them? The best way to think about those who've passed on, that moved out of the physical, moved out of their incarnation, is to consider them as going back into what they were, which is sentient energy, and to recognise that this sortie on Earth, this soiree on Earth, is simply not even a blink of an eye in terms of our normal existence, and our current longevity in this particular evolutionary cycle. So the way to really think about our loved ones, who we classify as loved ones in the incarnate, as being back home, being back in their normal environment, and being grateful for the role they played in helping us become incarnate and helping us have the skill set to be able to navigate through this incarnation in as efficient a way as possible, whilst also accruing the learning that we wanted to accrue as part of this incarnation and this subsequent evolution, and also being able to use those skills that we brought in from previous incarnations as well in this incarnation, and providing basically a springboard for us to experience, learn and evolve. So we have to think of him in terms of, those who've paved the way for us, and we're thankful for them paving the way so that we've been able to do what we're doing, so we can pave the way for those who we've helped to create, those other bodies we've created, so that other souls can incarnate. So we just have to think of them in terms of they've moved on to wherever they've moved on. Some of them will have done a back-to-back incarnation and may well have come back as one of our grandchildren. It's highly unlikely, but it does happen in very, very rare cases. Most of the time, though, while we're here, they will have moved on and have entered into some form of understanding or rationalisation of the life they'd previously had, the so-called life review, which also includes the work that the guide and helpers have done. And some will have moved straight through it and gone through the other side and will have entered into some form of communion with their tests. So the thing to do is to know that they've progressed in some way, either energetically or frequentially, as the case may be. They may have evolved, they might have evolved, they may have just recommuned with their tests. So, and just think of it in terms of they've progressed. They've progressed in whatever they're doing. They've progressed out of this incarnation, they've progressed into the rest of their existence and may well come back into another incarnation. Just know that they have progressed and send them thanks for helping you progress. You can send them love, that's fine. They will always receive love because it's a very potent energy to send. And so every entity in the multiverse will feel love if you project it out and broadcast it. Every entity that is in incarnation in this particular planet and other environments within the physical universe and other entities within the multiverse will always feel our love. Just because we think we're small doesn't mean that what we do isn't big. So just think of them as moving on, have done their role in terms of providing a springboard for us, and it's helped us to provide a springboard for other entities who are incarnating and experiencing, learning and evolving in this rather unique environment with a unique responsibility by having individualised free will. So I just send them thanks and love and know that they're progressing and they're doing whatever they're doing, irrespective of whether it's still working on their life plan or understanding their life plan and how they guide and how efficient their guide and helpers have worked with them, or whether they've entered back into communion or whether they are doing a back-to-back incarnation, just know that they're progressing in the way that they're supposed to have progressed, and they've evolved in the way they're supposed to have evolved, and give thanks for being part of that. And that your opportunity of being part of what you're doing now is giving other entities the opportunity for progression as well. So, good question. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your questions. Lots of questions, deep-rooted questions. Some of them relate to this current interesting world crisis that we have, that we shouldn't, as spiritual people, be in fear of. Do not fear it. Fear is the great leveler. It brings the frequencies down. Be out of fear, and be out of danger, but also help others be out of fear by following the rules that our collective governments are giving about how to think, behave and act around others. Washing the hands, stay socially distanced, and wearing the mask in public places. Do all of those things because it helps others who aren't thinking spiritually remove their fears. And in removing their fears, they become higher frequency and can lead to higher spiritual thought processes. So remove your fear by knowing you can't be affected if you're fearless, because your frequencies are higher, but also remove the fear of others by doing that which is physically responsible, demonstrating responsibility around you as well. That makes a big difference. Okay. So let's look at the meditation today, which is all about giving the earth energy, healing the earth and giving it more energy. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So, healing the earth. Let's sit in our straight backed chair as much as we can do. Okay, and feet flat on the ground, back straight. Hands placed palms uppermost on our upper thighs, closed eyes, gently focused on the origin or the location of the spiritual or third eye, which is in the same space but is not the same thing as the spiritual or third eye chakra. It's in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And we're just going to focus on being a receiver. OM asked about how to heal the earth. Well, let's do it now, shall we? We might be doing this in another meeting collectively as well later, as I'm doing a meditation with my agent in China, and we might be doing exactly the same thing. So this is good practice for us all. See yourself as a conduit, a tube, a pipe. And at one end of the pipe there's a funnel. We used to call them tun dishes in the past. A funnel. And see the other end of the pipe, which is you, is buried in the ground. Now visualize, or you can use your mentally spoken words, which is basically copying what I say, to see the top of that funnel expanding in diameter. And the length of the tube becoming longer and longer and longer. So that you become the longest tube on this planet, going vertically upwards. And the end of the tube is this funnel, which is also increasing in diameter. And the tube that's buried in the ground, that's us, starts off with a smaller diameter, about 2 or 3 meters into the earth. That's all it needs to be part of the earth, but gradually increases in diameter as it gets closer and closer and closer to the funnel. We are this tapered tube and funnel. This tapered tube extends in length longer and longer, and the funnel on the end extends in diameter larger and larger, until we start to see ourselves as basically connecting the earth with ourselves as this tapered tube and funnel with the energies that are within the multiverse, within the source. Visualize yourself, your consciousness, your sentience standing back from this image. So you see this hypodermic sized needle, this tube going into the earth and then gradually getting bigger and bigger and wider and wider and wider until it becomes in contact with and part of this funnel. That is having a huge, wide diameter. A huge, wide diameter. And so, this huge, wide diameter is bigger than the earth itself. So that as you look backwards towards the earth, you see the earth being like a ball on the end of this hypodermic needle, which becomes a huge, wide, diametered, tapered pipe attached to a funnel. And the energy coming into the earth is coming in from this funnel and moving into it, funneling down the funnel, moving into the pipe. It's got a large diameter and then gradually comes down the pipe. The pipe getting smaller and smaller until it goes into the earth. It's almost a hypodermic sized pipe. Energy coming into the earth naturally. Let the earth suck it in. Visualize the earth being porous, like a dry sponge. And the energy that's coming into it to fill it up, make it into a wet sponge, is energy that it needs to reinvigorate itself, to give it its vitality. It's dry because it's lost its vitality. Its resources are being misappropriated. The environment is becoming polluted. Its land spaces are becoming overpopulated. And so the earth is represented as a dry sponge that's lost its vitality. The vitality being the presence of water in this instance. So let the earth suck all this energy coming into the top of the funnel, going down the large diameter of the pipe, coming into and going into this hypodermic sized needle that goes into the earth, replenishing it. The earth sucks the energy in from the multiverse, recharging, reinvigorating, energizing itself. It doesn't matter that the side of the pipe that is us, that we've become, is small, the same size as a hypodermic. It doesn't matter. The energy is coming in at the rate it needs to. Doesn't matter how small it is. It's just the connection that counts. We are providing a funnel-like connection by channeling the energy through us to the earth, by visualizing this tapered pipe that starts out the size of a hypodermic needle and finishes at the size of a huge funnel that's bigger than the diameter of the Earth, allowing the Earth to suck in the energies it needs to reinvigorate it, energize it and heal it. This Earth that was like a very dried out sponge is now sucking the energies in like it would suck water in, to reinvigorate it and make it supple, maintaining its normal structure it would be had it got the right level of hydration. Hydration is energy for the Earth in this instance, and hydration is energy and is healing. Allow yourself to feel the energies going through you. They're not your energies, you're just providing the link between the energies of the multiverse and the energies that the Earth needs to heal. We'll just stay here feeling the energies for a few minutes. Feel the energies, allow it to come through you. You may feel like the energies are coming through your crown chakra and going out of your feet. That's okay. Just let the energy come through you. Let the energy come through you. See the Earth as this sponge, dry sponge, becoming more and more pliable as it becomes more and more hydrated. The hydration equaling the energy that's needed to replenish its energies, revitalise it, regenerating its natural energies, its ley lines, invigorating the ability for it to regenerate itself, which includes the regeneration of its oceans, regeneration of its forests, regeneration of the energies that are created by mountains. Now when you see the Earth, the ball that was the Earth, the sponge, the dried out, desiccated sponge that was the Earth, looking healthy, not overly full of water, just hydrated naturally, then you know that your work has been done and that you've allowed yourself to be a channel for the energies that the Earth wanted, in the amount it wanted, to be able to allow it to regenerate itself and heal itself. And so you can start to reduce the size of yourself as this tapered pipe with a funnel on the end. The diameter of the funnel starts to shrink and the length of the pipe starts to shrink, slowly and slowly, so you start to see yourself not only as bigger than the Earth, but the Earth starts to get bigger and bigger as the diameter of the funnel gets smaller and smaller and the length of the tapered pipe gets shorter and shorter. We are this shrinking funnel, this shrinking pipe. And so you've gone smaller and smaller. The diameter of the funnel gets smaller and smaller. The length of the tubes got smaller and smaller until you find yourself just your normal size. Standing on the earth, the visualization of you as a funnel starts to disappear. The visualization of you as a pipe starts to disappear. This visualization has allowed you to channel the energies into the earth, allowing it to pull into itself what it needed. Feel how invigorated it is, how hydrated it is, if you think of it in terms of this huge now, once desiccated, now hydrated, earth-sized sponge. Now full of energy, it can now repair faster. The atmosphere becomes repaired and unpolluted. The forests start to grow back where they've been decimated by mankind. The oceans start to clean up fast. The feeling about being on the earth improves, and the earth regenerates and heals itself. And is grateful for you, all of you, for providing yourself as a link to allow the earth to regenerate itself by using you as a receptor, a link between the energies of the source, which are part of the multiverse, coming down into it to regenerate it, rehydrate it and heal it. And so that's the end of this meditation, it's the end of this satsanga. Lots of questions. Thank you very much for those people who have asked the questions. I really appreciate it. I hope there's many more. I hope the questions surrounding this virus have helped. Best important thing is to stay fearless, but don't put fear into people by doing things that are crazy. Remove their fear by doing things they want to see, which is wearing the masks, washing the hands, and socially distancing yourselves, whilst also knowing that by maintaining your high frequency, by using the psychic shield, which is available to you all, the website is £1 right now, still £1, it'll stay £1 until I've said the 28th of May, but it might be longer now. And also using the chakra opening exercises, which are available through the process of creating the psychic shield, or you can go onto the press pack tab, and it's the press pack part of the about tab, and you can find the chakra opening exercises audio and PDF file there, because they will help you raise your frequencies. If you're a higher frequency, you become significantly less prone to illness or diseases and virus. Okay, so God's love to you all. Don't forget to stay responsible, spiritually responsible, and therefore physically responsible, and become good exponents of how a great civilization to be. God bless you all. God's love to you all. Namaste, and look forward to seeing you, hearing you, communicating with you between now and the next satsanga in May. God bless. Did you see the aliens in Crete?